Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and on this episode, one does not simply search YouTube to find Lord of the Rings figure reviews. They come to this channel because today we've got a look at the brand new 5th wave of Lord of the Rings action figures from Diamond Select. On my left, I've got Boromir, played by Sean Bean in the first film, and next to him is Lerts, leader of the Uruk High Scouts and the orc responsible for killing Boromir. It's honestly kind of fitting that they're both in the same wave together. I think it's actually a really fun choice, but yeah, we've got the latest wave here, and just a reminder, we've reviewed every other wave that Diamond has done so far, and we've been really honestly impressed by this whole series. Diamond's done a lot of great work over the past few years, but the Lord of the Rings series has been the defining one, I think, for them as an action figure maker. The quality, the sculpts, the paint job, the number of accessories, these have all been extremely incredible pieces, and absolute must-haves for any Lord of the Rings collectors. So now with Boromir and Lurtz in hand, I'm hoping that trend continues. We're going to keep getting some great stuff, and just based on my initial glances, yeah, this is not going to be a letdown. This is going to be freaking awesome. So real quick, let's talk about these packages though, and just so you guys can tell, they are exactly the same as any of the other Lord of the Rings figures we've seen so far. And these are very economic boxes, as opposed to something we've seen with, like, let's say the Marvel Select boxes. Those still keep the trend of having massive boxes, whereas really every other franchise from Diamond has been in this smaller size box in the past few years. And it works a lot better. It's easier to put on a shelf if you're a mint on card collector. They take up less space, but they still look really good and accomplish similar things that the other boxes would. Case in point, we still have massive windows on the front that lets you see all of the accessories these figures come with. We also got windows on each of the sides, as well as still maintaining the Diamond Select sunroof on top. The back of the boxes are also pretty much the same as we've seen in the past, with just a very large image of both figures side by side, a sneak preview of some of the other figures that are in the Lord of the Rings series, and also, in case you didn't know, a little short bio, or even a synopsis if you will, about what the heck Lord of the Rings is. There is no personalized information on the back of either of these figures, and really the only thing separating them would just be their names on the front of the box. So yeah, the packaging might not be the most amazing, but it gets the job done. But really, what matters is what's inside. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bust open our Boromir and our Lurtz and take a closer look at them from all angles. And here are our new Lord of the Rings figures. We got Lerts, we got Boromir. Here's a quick little up and down so you can see a little better look at them. And again, they are very striking. You know, this Lord of the Rings line has been one of the best things that Diamond has done in their action figures for years. And it looks like these two figures are going to be a very fine addition to that collection. So we're going to go ahead and separate these two figures for a bit, just to spend some closer time with each of them. And let's go ahead and start this off here with Lerts. Now, this is not the first time we've taken a look at some orcs with this line, but Lertz is definitely a special one because, well, he has a name, and the other ones really have not so far. But let's go ahead and start this off and just give you guys a little quick rotation of Lertz so you can get a better look at him from all sides, because he's got some pretty cool detail here. Now, I think the last orc that we did look at was, in fact, I think it was the Uruk High orc, and that one's very similar. There are a lot of similarities, as we're going to do a comparison in a few moments, but this one is still pretty different here. You know, I think this one is much more unique, whereas really the previous orcs, they were very much all army builders, and that's not a negative thing to talk about them at all. I mean, it just means that they were fairly similar. They had swappable heads that could make them more generic. This version here is really just meant to be Lertz. It's meant to be this character, and you know, that's fine though, because you could still use him as an army builder. I don't see any reason why you can't. And yeah, just taking a look at him from all different rotations, you guys can see he's got a lot of really fine details in here. Now let's start by talking about this likeness here, and I think it's a very great likeness of Lertz. I don't remember the name of the actor who played him in the film, but this is a good looking head sculpt. That's kind of what matters more than anything else, how good this head sculpt looks. It's very ferocious. I think they got the likeness down perfectly. They got a really wonderful job done with the hair, actually. I think the hair is like one of the real cool defining parts of this figure, which is funny because we're talking about an orc. But yeah, look at the long, luxurious locks that this orc has. Lertz really knows how to take care of his hair. I mean, he's using shampoo, he's using conditioner. That's wild considering, you know, how they don't even like to really shower or be clean in any way whatsoever. Orcs are not known for their hygiene, but Lertz is having a good hair day. But beyond the hair, again, just wonderful detail with the cheeks, the cheekbones, his brow, the eyes. You know, the nice thing about not doing humans is you don't have to worry so much about getting a likeness right, but these are still fairly humanoid, right? So you have to have some things that make it look like who it's meant to be, and I think they definitely got it here. I do want to point out that there is an additional head sculpt for Lerts as well. So you have two heads here. They're fairly similar. Really, the difference is that the one that's currently on his body has his mouth closed. The one on my hands has his mouth open and growling. But since we're here, let's actually just do a head swap now and just see how that works. And it comes off fairly easily, which is always reassuring. Let's see if it goes on just as smoothly. And all right, well, that was great. That's the pop of success. So there he is now with his other head. And here is the snarling face as opposed to the growling face that's currently on him. So you guys can see a nice difference there. This one's definitely even more expressive. I mean, they're both very expressive faces. Neither are really neutral. Like, these are not resting faces like you'll see with a lot of the human figures in this line and action figures in general. But both of these faces are very mean, very growly, very snarly, perfect for orcs. I'm going to leave this head on, I think, for the rest of this video here, but let's just move down and take a look at this body here, because he's got, again, just wonderful details in his clothing here. You've got this great leather texture that you can see through really his entire outfit, front and back. You can see it there. Great stuff in the back, too. I wasn't actually expecting that there would be that much detail in the back of him, but I mean, he has essentially a suspenders outfit here. But essentially, he has an outfit with suspenders. You can see there's the metal clasps on it. There's some different types of leather in here as well. They're painted differently. So it looks really great. A lot of wonderful detail that was not really, not expecting to see that in an orc. Also really like the fabric sleeves that he has here. Just really, really great job on the sculpting. And I like the belt as well around his waist. And let's go down a little bit further too. We could spend some time what's going on over here because, yeah, again, just loads of little intricate pieces here. And even his back, you can see on his back section here, it's a little bit dirtier on the bottom, which is kind of cool. It's like dried up mud on him. At least I hope it's mud. With an orc, you never really know. I do want to spend some time also talking about his gauntlets. Let's take a look at these because I always dig a good gauntlet. Just look at how good these gauntlets look here. And this gives you a better look also at some of the texture that's on his arm as well. In fact, we'll scroll up a little bit there so you can get a little more of his arms in there. But yeah, just really great gross flesh texture here. More leather, metal bits. I mean, yeah, just both sides as well. You get that. This just looks really good. Very nicely done. Great details there. So that's how his gloves look, but last but not least, let's talk about his big orc boots, because those are pretty cool too. So they are armor, heavy armor on his boots. You can see you've got some, I don't know if that's scales or whatever that is, but yeah, you can just see, I'm not going to try and define what the stuff is, but you can see just the great texture on his boots here, which look really sharp, very menacing. And these are just pulled straight out of the film, you know. That's kind of the nice thing about this. Check it out. His boots only go up to his ankles. So they're just ankle boots. He's just walking around with these things strapped to his bare body, but they look so sharp, so menacing. And that's exactly how they should look. It is literally screen accurate, I would say, for, you know, a 7-inch figure. This is probably the best amount of detail you're going to get in something like this. Now, I did mention that there is another orc that's very similar to Lertz, and that would be the Uruk High. So I'm going to nudge him down a little bit and bring him in so you can see how they look side by side. And yes, they are very similar, but they're still actually really different. I'm actually surprised how different they are. I mean, I think even the body is completely different between the two of them as I look closer. Let's zoom in a little bit and give you guys a better look as well. So let's start with the faces, and those actually look like they're the same. It's hard to tell because the skin is so different, but I'm pretty confident in saying that those are identical faces, especially as I look at the brow and the nose and where the mouth is. I think they're the same. It's the hair that's very different on them. That's what's kind of separating the two of them. Now the bodies though, those are very different, and you can tell just by the armor as well of Lertz, you can see it's completely different. I mean, they both have different shoulder pads. You know, this Uruk High is actually wearing armor, whereas Lertz is kind of just wearing, you know, very light armor at best. And maybe the boots are the same, but I don't even think those are the same too. They're a little bit different. And yeah, the reason I'm saying their bodies are different too is because I'm looking at the leg muscles. I'm looking at the quads of both of these guys here, and those are definitely different between the two of them. It's a weird thing to note, but yeah, our Uruk High has leaner legs as opposed to Lertz, who doesn't miss leg day at all. But yeah, they look really good together side by side, and you could see how now I'm talking about, like, whereas this is the army builder because he came with a helmeted head, this guy's a little bit more recognizable. That still doesn't mean you can't have more than one of him in your collection. And as far as height goes, again, they are the same, but there is another orc we've gotten as well so far. I hope he stands up, but here is one of the first orcs we got. I forgot what his name was or what he was called, but this is clearly a much smaller orc, so that's kind of fun to see them all side by side. And as far as the enemy army goes right now, this is pretty much it. So you're definitely going to want to take advantage of getting multiples of these guys. And the fact is that our Uruk High and our little guy here, they do come with helmeted heads, so you can get some diversity. You can really swap pieces out. They also have a lot of different weapons, so that's going to help you make them look a little bit different together. But yeah, these are the 3 orcs that we have so far. I don't know if that's going to be the end of them. Maybe there's more, who knows, but as of now, there seems to be a focus on some of the other characters, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Let's keep going down this path here and talk accessories, and we already talked about the alternate head sculpt. That's what's currently on him right now, but here is the main head sculpt one more time, but he comes with a ton of other weapons. So we'll start with his shield. This is a very nice orc shield, great detail. I believe we've seen this shield before, so again, it'll help him blend in a little bit if you're trying to do the army building thing, but it's a wonderful shield. It's got the handle on this side here. Very sharp, very pointy. I mean, it's like legitimately pretty pointy that you will definitely lose an eye with that. We'll also talk a little bit about articulation as we do this, and he has the same, I think it's like 15 points of articulation that all the other diamond figures have. It's pretty much the same kind of thing. And he's not that stiff out of box, I will admit. He's a little stiff, but not like unmanageable. What is a little stiff are their hands, and I think those would require some blow dryers to loosen them up, because I'm having the same problem with Boromir as well. We haven't even gotten to him yet. All right, and after a lot of blow drying with a hairdryer, I finally was able to get the shield in his hand. That's how it looks, and it looks great once it's in there, but it is very difficult. It's really not even completely in his hand all the way. I'll see if I can do this without having him drop his shield. You can hear how stiff he is, and I've been hitting him with a hairdryer for a few minutes now. But you can see here that it's pretty cool because it is meant to also be used as a weapon, just like you saw in the movies. But you'll notice here the way his hand is, it's like still not completely wrapped around the handle. And that's because, while his hands are very, very stiff, they're very tightly shaped also. Like, they're really curled inwards a lot. And making matters worse is that the handle is also a little bit of a softer plastic too. So it's very difficult to actually get him to have that sitting in his hands. At least for me, it's taken a lot more work than I'd like it to. But it is finally in there, and you could at least hide it a little bit. So, you know, most folks won't know it's like this unless they really take a good long look at it. But if you just hold it like this, you can get away with it, and none the wiser. But once you do get the shield in there, it does look really cool. So that's at least a good bonus to have there. So it's there, it's in, it just is a lot of effort. Now, besides his really cool shield, we also have a classic orc sword, which looks like a machete. Really nice back end stabby bit. Let's see if this goes in his hand any easier. And I suspect that with this one, because the orc swords have this like very thin handle, this should just slide in. But again, his hands are really tight, and blow drying, yeah, has been helpful, but because these are such thin pieces, it's still not getting in there that well. You saw the shield just fill out. So I'm going to try and hit him with a blow dryer one more time. All right, so after a quick moment or two, and it was very quick with the hairdryer, I was able to get the blade in his hand. And that looks awesome, and I did get the shield back in also. It's still fitting just as awkwardly, but at least you don't see how awkward it is because of how big the shield is. But as far as his Uruk sword goes, I mean, that looks great. That actually does look really nice here. So there you guys go. So those are his 2 main weapons. Those are probably what most folks are going to include with him, but he still has more. So besides his sword and his shield, he also has his orc bow and arrow. This is very cool. Like, the detail on this one is gorgeous. I think we got a bow and arrow previously as well with a different orc, but it was much smaller. It wasn't anywhere near as cool as this. And it has a really taut string as well, which is going to come in handy for his last accessory, which is a pouch and 3 arrows. Yes, this pouch actually holds 3 arrows. I don't know if you can actually get this around him or where it's supposed to go around. I think there's actually, if you turn him around, he does have, I think, a hook, yeah, on his side here. So I think if you play around with that enough, you can actually get it to sit in there. I'm not going to do that here, but yeah, we got arrows, and as you can see, these arrows are moving around in there. So each one is, in fact, removable. So you have 3 removable arrows you could fire off with that bow and arrow. Now, getting him to pose to do that is a little more difficult because he doesn't really have a ton of joints, so we tried in the past. You can sort of do something, you can kind of pull something off, but you can't really get him to actually do it. But one really cool thing I discovered about this is the bow and arrow actually does shoot. Like, you can actually get it in like this position. I think we did that with Legolas, in fact, and yeah, I didn't try there, but I did it earlier off screen. The arrows will fly pretty darn far if you do it well enough. Bow, arrow, very nice. Really, really great little bits of detail there. Now let's talk articulation real quick as well with Lertz. You guys can see he's got a bowl-jointed head. We saw that earlier. That moves around with no issues. He does have bowl-jointed shoulders, and he has a double-jointed, it looks like. Actually, no, it's a single joint. I take that back. It's a single-jointed elbow. We do have wrists that can bend and flex. His waist doesn't exactly turn from the waist area, but his chest does turn around. And we have some decent mobility with the legs. He actually has double jointed knees, which is really nice. We have the thigh joint as well that can move around. And because his outfit doesn't really restrict him that much, he actually can move his legs around and do some other cool poses. But for the most part, I mean, you're probably not going to really have him do much other than looking like he is right now, charging towards you. But if you wanted to move him around a little bit more and get him some more dynamic posing, you can do that. So that's our look at Lerts. Overall, very good. Wonderful likeness, great accessories. Really, the only problem is his joints being way too tight, and that's kind of something we've seen with a lot of Lord of the Rings figures. This one has been exceptionally difficult, but there are workarounds. We were able to pull this look off, so I mean, yeah, it's not impossible. It just takes a little bit of patience, and if you have it, well, it's going to look great. So that's Lerts, but let's make way now for Boromir. And here is our Boromir now. And again, this figure looks amazing. I mean, there's really, as far as likeness and appearance goes, I think these are pretty unrivaled, especially even compared to guys like McFarlane and other folks out there. The details are great. Let's do a quick pan up and down so you can get a nice first look at how he's going to look. And a little taste of some of the details you're about to see here, because this thing, it does look very good. This looks a lot like Sean Bean, but you don't have to take my word for it. So let's do a quick rotation and give you guys a full glimpse of Boromir from every angle, and you will see that while he doesn't have exactly the most breathtaking outfit as compared to a lot of other characters, he does still have a lot of great little details here. And whereas a lot of him is cloaked in literally a cloak or a robe, very long robes, when he does have little bits of detail popping out, they've spent some ample time making sure that it looks really, really solid. So we'll keep that rotation going, and you can see some of the designs on his outfit, his chainmail, his wonderful looking gauntlets, a little bit of that excellent likeness of Sean Bean, and that's actually, I think, where we're going to start, is we're going to spend some time talking about that. But there is one thing I want to do before I go too deep in that, and that's something that's really cool, in case you're wondering, because I feel like a lot of people are. Yes, this cape does come off. It comes off very easily. You don't even actually need to take his head off to do that. Just that easily, you've now got the cape off. You can have it over here hanging out to the side, do whatever you want with it. I'm going to leave it off just for this initial glimpse here. But yeah, let's start talking about Boromir a little bit more in depth. Now let's start with the likeness here, and how much does this thing look like Sean Bean? Like really, this is top notch. This is an excellent head sculpt here. Keep in mind, this is like what, a $25, $30 at most figure, and you're getting an excellent, excellent likeness here. And their paint jobs at Diamond have gotten so much better over the years, and you can really see it in this one here. It's soft, it's pretty good here. The right amount of paint, no over application or anything. There's a good little amount of like subtleties as well and some nuance in there. So you're getting a lot with it. And likewise, this hair is really cool too. I mean, this looks just like his hair does. It looks like it's flowing in the wind, has some great action to it. You know, it might not be as pretty as Lurtz's was, but it's still really good. So yeah, job well done on that. And really, I can't get over how good this one looks. I mean, I'm like thinking back to the other figures that we've seen in the Lord of the Rings so far from Diamond, and I think I like this one the best. I think this likeness, it's definitely standing out to me among all the other ones that we looked at. So the resemblance to Sean Bean is near perfect. I like this a lot. Let's spend some more time talking about this outfit now. And as I alluded to, this one is not quite as dramatic as some of the other ones that we've seen, but it's still very screen accurate to what was worn in the first movie, The Fellowship of the Rings. And, you know, color-wise looks good. I like some of the little details here. Especially enjoy some of the little clasps that he has and the intricate design work that's on his collar, and that goes up and down his entire body. Likewise, you know, going back down for a moment, his belt has got a lot of little detail in there. I was not expecting that, and it's all very finely painted too. I also dig the mud-worn bottom of his outfit too. Nice little bit of attention to detail. And by the way, his boots have a little bit of that as well. Now that's some serious detail right there. The fact that his boots are kind of caked in mud as well, and you can see it on the opposite side as well. That's really excellent. I really appreciate when companies do stuff like that. It's little things, but they really do add up to make a big difference in how a toy looks. Now, one of my other real favorite parts of this are his sleeves, and really his arms in general are really good, but his sleeves are awesome. This is where a lot of the detail is really living. You can see like you got the pattern on it there, which is again pulled straight from the movie on both sides. Like that patterning is just looking really wonderful. Loads of detail in a very small amount of space. And likewise, as we kind of scroll down, you'll see his chainmail armor that he's wearing underneath all of this, and his gauntlets, which are also super detailed. Look at how good this stuff looks here. It's a little stiff, but look how awesome all of this looks. This is really epic detailing. I mean, this is beyond what I was hoping for with these guys. Now let's talk accessories here. I'm going to put the cape back on, and yes, we're counting the cape as an accessory, especially because it is removable. and even has a nice little emblem bit there on his collar. This gorgeous looking emerald color that's on it, right out of the movie. Now, as far as weaponry and accessories go, Boromir does not have a second head. We only get this one head sculpt of Sean Bean, but we do get alternate hands, and these are his gloved hands. So if at any point you want to swap out the fleshy hands for gloved hands, you can do that. And they're identical hands. Like, there's actually nothing different about these two. There's no difference in the shape or anything or what they're going to hold. It's just these are painted black, the ones on him are not. Now, I want to knock this one out of the way real early here and see if anybody else can help me out there. But there is this piece, and I forgot what the heck this is. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't remember if this is like a piece of somebody's sword or something, but this is an accessory in there, and I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's really cool, and I feel really bad for not remembering it, so someone please refresh my memory. But there's this thing here. That's an accessory. Moving on. We get a very lovely little dagger. It's a little bit rubbery, a little bit soft. In fact, the blade is actually very, very flexible and malleable. But we get this little dagger here. I think this is also the dagger that was given to Frodo, but I can't recall if this is or isn't. But yeah, we get a little tiny dagger. If it wasn't, I think he tried to probably kill him with it. But yes, tiny dagger, and let's see if it actually fits in his hand right now. And yes, this does in fact fit in that hand. So you got a nice little tiny stabby dagger. That's cool. One of the most important accessories, though, that Boromir has to have is the Horn of Gondor. Here it is. And it's so cool that it comes with this figure. It had to come with this figure, honestly. Like, it had to be packaged with somebody. And it's very nicely detailed. Looks, again, straight out of the movie. I don't know how well he's going to hold it, though. I think at best you could pretty much just, like, put it around his arm and kind of leave it there. Or he can hold it by the strap, obviously. But, yeah, not much really he can do with it. I don't even know if he has any, like, belt loops to put it on. Oh, he does have something in the back there. Hopefully you guys can see it. He does have a little tiny thing here. I think we could probably force it on there. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you actually can get it to attach to his belt. There it is. So he's going to just have that hiding on him for the rest of this review. That's pretty cool. But let's get into some of the bigger weaponry that he comes with. And that includes this awesome looking shield here. This is a cool, cool shield filled with lots of details. It's not as intricate maybe as some of the previous shields we've seen with any wood detailing or anything like that. It almost looks plain in comparison, but it's still quite nice. And there is a grip on the inside there. We're going to get this onto his arm right now and see how this works. And since we already talked articulation with Lerts, I'll just do that right now real quick with Boromir. He has the same as Lerts, of course. The only difference is that a lot of his articulation is going to be a little bit harder to access because his legs are covered up with his robe. So he's not going to really be able to do any high kicks or really any kicking at all, but he can still move his arms and his head and his chest area, so you got that covered. So here's how the shield looks in his arm, and there we go. And I'll slide him down for a minute to show you guys his final accessory. And yeah, he has been flopping over a little bit because, again, I didn't actually hit him with the blow dryer yet, but his ankles are very stiff. But anyway, as far as accessories go, his last piece is his sword. We have the signature sword of Boromir with the scabbard. Great detail again. I've said that word so many times, but it's true. And when you're talking about these Lord of the Rings figures, they're loaded up with little details that make these things look like they're really right from the movie. And hey, I've said that a ton too, sue me. But check it out. It actually does hold in the scabbard. The sword is actually staying put. I'm moving this thing around back and forth real hard to get it to come out, and it's not. And that's actually a good thing. And if you're wondering, it does easily come out. I was just doing that to prove a point. So that's like the one stiff thing that you want with the figure. So there you go. That's how his sword looks out of the scabbard. Now, let's try to get this in his hand. And I know for a fact already that, unfortunately, because I tried this earlier, due to how thick the very bottom of that handle is, it does not go in his hand easily at all. In fact, the way his hand is, it's actually like really closed. Again, like Lerts, very, very tight. So I'm going to try and now hit him off camera with some hot air, and let's see if we can get him to actually hold his sword. All right, so there you go. You can see it in his hands. It actually didn't take long at all. It was like a few seconds with the hot air, and it went in there real smooth. The issue was that the paint had kind of like really sucked around his thumb and his finger, making it very hard to slide anything into that space because you guys can see how thick the bottom of that sword is. It's very hard to slide that through, and that's normally my pro tip, just to slide it through the hand, but you can't do that with this figure. So that's pretty much the trick. You just got to get the hair dryer out, and that'll get the sword right in his hands. So that's how our Boromir looks head to toe now that he's all dressed for battle. Looking awesome. Let's go ahead and do some figure comparisons with him right now to see how he looks against some of the other members of the Fellowship. Let's start with one of the favorites that we've had in this series, Aragorn. Very similar height there. And likewise, I think Gandalf will be fairly similar too. Let's see if I can get him to stand up against all this. I think he requires a little bit of extra work getting standing up as well, but I'll just hold him for the time being, but that's how he looks together, side by side. Let's try a few of our smaller characters too. We've got Gimli. Again, another one of my favorites. I think he might have been my favorite so far this entire series, but that's how he looks. And again, they all do move around a little bit better, but I also have a little bit of a wobbly display today that I'm working on. So there you go, that's Gimli. And last but not least, just for fun, let's bring in Frodo. I'm going to put him right in front of Gimli so you can see the height difference between him as well. And these guys look really cool together. Like, you know, it's one of my favorite things about these figures is actually just getting them all together and just having like diorama setups with them, because it looks really cool when you do that. And I've done that in some of the other previous videos. I don't think I'm going to do it here because I don't really have the ideal set that I normally am working on. But yeah, this is how all these guys are looking. And it's very, very cool to see them all together. This is the Fellowship. We're really taking this thing together now and getting these guys all ready for combat. And the good news is that this line is going to be continuing for at least a little while longer. So just recently I was at New York Toy Fair, and depending when this airs, New York Comic Con 2023 will have also happened. And I do know we have more Lord of the Rings figures on the way. So I'm going to have these two figures rotate for you guys while I talk about what's the future and give you guys my final thoughts here. And yeah, if you're wondering, we do get some more figures coming out very soon. Well, very soon is a relative term, but more Lord of the Rings figures are indeed on the way, and that's awesome news, because we are going to be able to finish the Fellowship of the Rings. But yeah, coming up soon, we're going to have Gandalf the White. We're also going to get Saruman finally, which is very cool. And we're going to get the rest of the Hobbits. We're getting Sam, we're getting Merry, and we're getting Pippin. I don't know how they're going to be all packaged together. I'm assuming Merry and Pippin will probably be like a 2-pack or something. But really, at this point, anything goes. I'm hoping that there will be a Build-A-Figure. As of now, there does not seem to be a Build-A-Figure. I would have loved to have had a Balrog or a Giant or an Ent. But at the very least, we're going to be able to finish the core group of characters. There are still, of course, plenty missing, like Eowyn. And there are still tons that we could have, but as far as just like the main group of characters go, we're close to getting them all now, and that's awesome news. So really it's going to come down to all of us buying more figures to make that happen. We got to basically speak with our wallets, and I will say that if Diamond keeps doing quality figures like what we've seen in this video and all the others, then they got my money, that's for sure. Really, the only issue has been the stiffness of the joints, and that's been with ankles and hands and really those minor joints. But really, truth is, if you just take a few moments to hit them up with the hair dryers and just be very patient, you can get them to work out. The shield with Lerts is still an issue. That's going to be something I have to fight with for a while. Luckily, it's hidden. I don't think it was as big of an issue with the other figures, though, so I don't really know what's going on there. Maybe I just really need to hit him with a lot longer blast of a hairdryer, but still, for the most part, everybody's got their weapons in hand. They're looking awesome, and I can't wait for more. So that's our look at Lerts and Boromir from Diamond Select's Lord of the Rings series. This is the latest series to hit stores now. If you want to pick it up for yourselves, go ahead and check out my Amazon affiliate links in the description below. I'm going to have a few different places you guys can pick these up from, and I definitely give it a high recommend. And stay tuned for plenty more other figure reviews, statue reviews, and a whole lot more coming very soon to this channel. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today, taking a look at the Diamond Select Lord of the Rings figures for you, straight from the Rohan into your living room. And until then, you've got Gimli's axe, you've got Legolas's bow, and you've got my camera. We'll see you guys later.